Mustang giveaway is still live. Huge shout out to the 68 people who have already entered. You've got really good odds and you're running out of time. Welcome back to the channel, man. So we picked this Blazer up for the purpose of using it for like off-roading, going out like fishing and camping, and it's time to start doing some modifications to it, man. I really want to add lighting to this thing, and in order to do so, I personally think we're gonna need a roof rack up here. I know you can put a light bar and have a little brackets to screw in and stuff, but I want a little bit more than that, because with a roof rack we'd also be able to obviously put things on top of the truck and strap them down, and I want something a little bit more heavy duty than the factory rack, and I want something that's a little larger than the factory rack as well. So I've kind of brainstormed and I have a little bit of an idea what we're gonna do today, but for the most part I'm just winging it, man. We're gonna see what it is we can do with this Unistrut. I picked a bunch of this stuff up off of Marketplace. I'm probably, I want to say probably $50 into Unistrut right now. This stuff is relatively light. It's not super heavy, but it is very strong because of the design of it. So let's just get into this, man. We are shooting from the hip today. Freestyling, if you will. I have not decided yet if I want to make something completely from scratch that actually attaches to the body. What we are for the most part building is a platform rack. It's not really a basket, it's a platform. And I've noticed a lot of the aftermarket ones that you purchase, they are built to utilize the factory rack. Like it basically sets up there and you have kind of like U-bolts that you wrap around the factory rack to the platform rack, and that's what holds it there, you know? That would make it a lot easier than us sitting here trying to fabricate mounting points and all that kind of stuff. But who knows, man? Just go ahead and pop the factory rack off and just see how involved that would be in order to try, because I might be able to just pop this factory rack off, set a piece of Unistrut up here and just bolt it directly to the roof. But you want to bet that rack probably hasn't been off in 26 years. Use some good old lean, mean, super clean, get the area clean. Mustang giveaway is still live. So here's the deal. You only have 18 days left to enter. Everything on the website gets you entered. You're getting some dope ass merch in the first place. And as a bonus, you're being entered to win this here Mustang. So you can do donuts for yourself. Drawing a winner live on Halloween night. Huge shout out to the 68 people who have already entered. You've got really good odds and you're running out of time. Alright, so I've got this figured out, man. This is actually going to be pretty easy. So just setting a full length up here, you can see those holes line up perfectly inside of the Unistrut. That's amazing. I'm actually really stoked that the rear is the same, but we are going to run into a couple of problems. So if you look from the side of the Blazer, obviously the roof isn't perfectly straight like this piece of Unistrut is. You have a gap forming up here, and then there's a large gap back here in the back, and especially right here where it's got to bolt down. So that is an issue. And then of course, if you look at it from the back, the whole piece of Unistrut is leaning to the side, where I need it to be basically squared. It needs to be straight up and down so that our vertical pieces up here can just sit flat on them. That's another problem that we're gonna have to solve. But for the time being, I think I am gonna go ahead and move forward with making some brackets to utilize the factory bolting points rather than using the stock rack and just attaching to that. So to start off, what it is we are gonna do, if you can see in here, The front, we would need 3 holes. So there's a hole where the bolt would go through, and then a center hole, and then a hole where the bolt goes through. So we're gonna actually use some unistrut to make these brackets. So I need to cut a piece that has 3 holes in it for both sides. And then I think the back, I think the bolt pattern's a little tighter. Let's see. Yeah, the back, I only need, get the slide, I only need 2 holes. So we have to cut 4 pieces. 2 with 2 holes and 2 with 3 holes. Alright, so there's our mounting brackets. I went ahead and I got them all deburred and cleaned up a little bit. I need to knock this galvanized stuff off because we are going to have to weld to this. I'll have to do some more cleanup, of course. But for now, I want to go ahead and get them bolted up there because there's going to be a lot more that we have to do to these to make them work. Alright, so these factory bolts that was holding the roof rack up here, they're too long because that factory foot that sat up here, you know, it was really thick inside of there, and a lot of this thread section was taken up by that. So now they're too long. So I found some hardware that are going to actually work in there that aren't as long. Alright, so I got one side bolted up there, and it's temporary because, like I mentioned, we got to do some more to those things for them to even work. But if you look at it from the side, as you can see, we are going to be welding this part to these so we can actually raise it up and place it wherever it is that we want. So that will eliminate the problem of having the gap on the back, because as you can see with the flat bar up there, it still has that gap that we saw before, but our brackets will reach it. So I can weld it at the gap and move it up to where it's not touching the blazer at all anywhere. That is what it is I need to work on first. Get this thing out of my way and not let it get into my windshield. But yeah, I need to work on that first, is getting these things tapped where those parts that are sticking up aren't at an angle to where they are straight. Alright, I got 2 of them done. I just want to show you this really quick. So as you can see now, with those brackets bent like that, now the bracket is sitting at that angle on the top of the blazer, but the sides that are actually going to be attaching to our rack are straight up and down versus what it is that they look like before, where they're at an angle. But now I think I'm changing my mind. I think I have another idea that might be a little bit easier than that even. So I got a piece of cardboard. I kind of gave my son my whiteboard. So anyhow, our problem is basically the top of the blazer is like this, and we don't want our brackets sticking sideways. So to counteract that, we are bending them. Now our brackets are going to be like this for the most part, in which, in order to attach the rack, it is going to be sitting like this. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking, instead of making the brackets bent like that, we could just, for the most part, bend both sides inwards, creating kind of a triangle. So then our unistrut will sit on top of it like this. And I think that's going to be a little bit easier to repeat left to right and get it nice and centered and everything. And then we'll still have an area to weld there and there to make it nice and strong, where before we were going to, I mean, it was still going to be strong, but a little bit more difficult to repeat this. So with it in this orientation, we're going to weld it there and there. So it's not much of a difference, but I think this is going to be a little bit easier to get it symmetrical left to right. Alright, now all the mounting brackets are fabricated and they're bolted up there. I'm going to have to cut the tops off of those after, but long story short, I got to do some more stuff to those things. Anyhow, now we need to figure out exactly how long we want the rack to be. So I'm thinking I don't really want to get all the way out here. Thinking about stopping about right there in that area and probably staying at least an inch in right here, maybe 2 inches, just to make sure, you know. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Let me see. Okay, the window does not cross the body panel. What the hell? Unlock! And yeah, neither does the lift gate. Realistically, we can come all the way flush if we wanted to. All right, horizontal bars are cut. Now, I mentioned before that I want this thing as low as I can possibly get it. Doing the bracket like this, it has it set up kind of high, and that's where I mentioned I'm gonna have to do some extra stuff to make this work. So for the most part, what I'm gonna do is mark where these brackets sit on here in relation to that bar, and then we're gonna have to notch that little curved section out of the inside of the unistrut. So these little curved lips on the inside right there, that's what I'm referring to. I'm just going to go ahead and cut those out, notch them, so we just have this flat area on the outside. That'll allow this to sit a little bit closer to the roof of the Blazer and give us a more flat area to put a weld on. All right, I got the thing all mocked up. So I've actually had this thing up here like 3 or 4 times, man. But I've got it figured out. Mainly had to take it all back down in order to clean everything and grind it all down, make sure it's bare metal and ready for welding, because I think the only way that I'm really gonna get these in the correct spot is I need to at least tack weld them with it on the truck. So with these bars going across, I have them clamped on both sides. That is holding these perfectly square with one another. So clamping them is holding them exactly basically where it is I want them to be. I went around with a tape measure. This is kind of something you gotta do two-handed, but I went around with a tape measure, and this is exactly 22.5 inches from this bar to the top of the window sill. The same with the other side. And then you come back here to the rear one. This is exactly 22.5 inches on both sides. So it's sitting perfectly straight and square, exactly where I want it to be right now. So I need to get the welder out, and what we're gonna do is, like I said, I'm gonna put a couple tacks on each one of these, and then I could just unbolt the whole thing, take it off, and then like weld it good up here on the table, you know? I recorded none of it because honestly my welder is kind of frustrating me right now because I can't seem to get it to just weld properly. I've been back and forth with settings and turn temp down, turn it up, wire speed down, up, messing with the gas setting. Like for whatever reason, I just cannot find a setting that likes to weld this damn unistrut. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I got it melted on there. It's just most certainly isn't pretty. Big old caterpillars, baby. Big old caterpillars, but it's gonna hold. The ones up here in the front, I had to knock all the way down and get it smooth, because once we do get this done, I'm going to make a side panel, like a flat side panel. And I can't have a big old caterpillar weld right there, you know, because then it won't sit flat. This one's actually sat back some, so I don't have to grind that off. Anyhow, moving on, I gotta bolt those back on there, and then we need to pull a tape measure and see how long our crossbars are gonna be and see how many of them I want. And yeah, I think that's gonna be the fun part. Look who just escaped. Yeah, it looks great, man. I absolutely freaking love it. That was actually the fun part, but now I have to take each one of those down one at a time. I have to deburr the ends because, yeah, that saw just kind of leaves them a mess, man. But yeah, I have to take each one and do both sides of each one of those runners over here on my wire wheel bench grinder and clean it up. I'm not gonna bore you guys with that, but it's probably gonna take me probably every bit of an hour to do all of that. Hey, moving blankets are flammable. You learn something new every day. I'm kidding, I knew it was flammable. To mention that this roof rack is going to be pretty dang heavy duty. Anyhow, I got that all completed last night. I mean, that right there is basically the rack. Got it all painted, and it's just a really quick rattle can black. It is what it is. I'm not worried about it being perfect, but that's going to do everything it is that I am looking for it to do. These side pieces are basically going to be to make it look nicer. So that is 4-inch flat bar. Now 4 inches right here in the front is almost to the roof of the Blazer. Then all the way back here in the back is the same. So 4 inches is just a little bit away. But if you go right here in the center, 4 inches won't even fit. You know what I mean? So we're gonna have to cut the bottom of that flat bar to basically match the contour of the roof of the Blazer. So I'm gonna do my best to try to explain exactly how it is I'm doing this. I know a lot of people will probably understand it. I don't think I'm the best at explaining things. So this top edge right here, I want that to sit flush to the top of the rack. So I clamped a couple of these drop pieces of unistrut on here. This unistrut is 1 inch and 5/8. So doing that, that side piece is gonna sit 1 inch and 5/8 up higher than where I want it. All right, so now with it up there, like I mentioned, this thing is spaced up 1 inch and 5/8, the height of a piece of unistrut. So I cut a little piece of unistrut so I can use for marking this. And I'm just gonna use, well, I'm gonna try to use this pencil thing because it's supposed to mark really good on metal. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. I can't find a dang Sharpie that works right now. So the idea is to set this piece, in which I wrap some tape around the bottom, set this piece on here and just drag it across the roof of the Blazer with this pencil there, and the area that needs to be cut, it'll leave a line. So up here, as you can see, it's not gonna reach it. But as you start to get to the center where the Blazer like concaves up, we're gonna be leaving a line, and that's what it is that we need to trim in order for this to fit after we take that 1 inch and 5/8 out and lower it down. Yeah, screw this thing. Jesus, I need to find a Sharpie. That's it. Not very much, but that's it. All right, got it clamped up there, and dude, it follows the contour of the roof pretty well. The only thing is I think that there probably should be at least a small gap. Either way, I'm just happy that it fits on there. And as you can see, it's nice and flush with that top bar now. And it's just gonna give it a cleaner look, especially once we get it all painted and everything. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one off, and I'm gonna try it on the other side just to make sure that it'll fit on both sides, because of course it could be slightly different, ever so slightly from left to right. But if it does fit on this side, then I'm just gonna use that piece as a template and start trimming my other side. Man, oh man, how time flies. All right, so I got both of these side pieces finished, and they are identical left to right. Those are pretty much done, minus the fact that now we need to attach them. So I went ahead and I pulled the rack back off, and I got all the areas I need to drill marked already. What I'm gonna do is drill some pilot holes on all these center marks, and then I could take this off. I'm about to drill the hole larger on the flat bar for my bolts to fit through, and then I got a bunch of rib nuts to go into the actual unistrut itself. So, and then after that, I gotta go through, if you see we have all this marked inside of here where these gaps are at. The idea is I want to drill a hole here and here on each one of them, and then use the grinder and connect those holes. So on this side, you're just gonna see the slots, like it's gonna be a slot, kind of like an oval, all the way around. That's going to be where we'll be able to put ratchet straps, you know. That right there is going to be a lot of work in itself. So anyhow, I'm going to start drilling. Alright, pilot holes are all drilled. So like I mentioned now, so these are the bolts I got. 3/8, man. Yes, overkill. But I just thought it would look cool having a larger bolt up there. But so now we have to drill this. All these pilot holes we got to drill out large enough to fit the bolts. And then all the pilot holes are on the rack itself. We have to drill out large enough to fit these rib nuts. But that's a giant hole, buddy. All right, day 3, working on my roof rack. So I got these tabs welded on the front. These are gonna be for, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, like a traditional roof rack. It has like a little scoop, like a ramp for lack of better term, I don't know, that mounts on the front. That's what those are gonna be for. And I drilled the holes large enough that I could put rib nuts in there so that piece will actually bolt on and you can take it off. That we're gonna be making out of aluminum, but we'll do that later. That's basically gonna be last. I'm gonna make one for the back as well. So moving on, I really need to get these things painted so that they can start drying. But before I can paint them, I gotta get all the cutting and everything done. So I mentioned earlier in the video that while we had these things mounted on the rack, I marked the back side of it so that I know where these openings are at, basically. So inside of these openings, I'm wanting to put a slot, and that's going to be an area where we're able to put ratchet straps, you know, because if I just bolt this up there right now, as it is, there's literally nowhere to put a ratchet strap. So it kind of defeats the purpose, right? That's the idea, is go ahead and put some slots in here, and I would go ahead and just, it would be a lot easier just to drill holes, right? but I want it to be slots because I think that's what's going to make it look a little bit more professional and look like it's not something that was homemade, obviously. It's going to be a lot harder to do that, but you know, I want it to look good, so it is what it is. Alright, I got all the holes drilled, so now we got to go through and play a game and connect the dots, man. So the idea is basically to use a cutoff wheel, and I'm going to connect the hole, top and bottom, and cut that entire center section out, leaving a cool looking slot. And I hope it works out, dude, because if not, then I'm going to screw it all up. In other words, wish me luck. There it is, man. There's the roof rack all complete. Well, it's 90% complete. If I'm being straight up with you guys, I still got to make a plate for the front covering this, because yes, it most certainly whistles, but I do plan on making a front plate, and I do plan on making a back plate also. So the back plate is going to basically come up, and then I have to make it to where you're going to be able to still see the third brake light in the rear. But I'm kind of holding off on that because I do have lights that I want to mount on the front right here, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to mount them on the top or if I want to mount them on the front to where they're kind of lower. I'll have to show you guys right now, but yeah, I'm trying to decide that, and that's gonna play a big part in how it is I actually design that front plate. So we're gonna have to hold off on that until we actually do the light install. That will be the next video on the Blazer, of course. We got to get the aux beam lights up here. Got a really cool switch panel and everything for them. But anyhow, let's get back to the house, and I want to show you what it is I'm talking about as far as the light placement. So I got a bunch of these lights that we're going to be mounting on the top. I'm actually really stoked about these. I'm more stoked about these now that they came in and I've had a chance to actually look at them, because the quality on these damn things is just... Dude, these things are ridiculous. Look at the bracket. Like, that's aluminum. That is solid freaking aluminum, man. Like, these things are tough. And they're yellow on the front. But anyhow, we can get into this whenever we actually do the installation video. But the problem that I'm running into is deciding exactly how to mount them. So in this configuration, my plan originally, of course, was to just mount it on the top like that. But I don't know, does that look like it's gonna be too high? Now there's gonna be a line of them going all the way across. I kind of think it would look better being mounted lower, you know? So if you look at the way that this bracket actually attaches to the light, there's 2 bolts on each side. It's really cool. You can pivot it and then you can tighten it down and you don't have to worry about it moving. This one is just centered. This one actually allows you to pivot it. But if you remove this secondary bolt right here, then that'll allow us to actually move this bracket all the way back to where it's facing the rear of the light. And with the bracket like that, then I can mount these on the front of that bar. And as you can see, we'd get the lights down a lot lower rather than being so high. So I don't know, man. Put in the comments down below what you guys think. Of course, doing it like this, we're gonna lose that secondary bolting option, which I think that we should be able to get those bolts right there tight enough to where this isn't gonna move. You know, I don't think that's too much to worry about, but then we could also flip the bracket up this way if we want it a little bit higher. You know, you got some options there. So I'm just trying to decide whether I want to go forward with the mounting that I originally thought we were going to do, is just mounting it on the top like this, or do I want to go ahead and remove that bolt and mount it on the front? Then they're going to be a lot lower. Now, if I mount it like this, then that's not in the way of me making this plate whatsoever. But if we mount this on the front, then I'm going to have to get creative whenever it comes to making a plate, because it's going to have to go kind of around all the lights, of course. So I will give you guys a little bit of a teaser. Having the lights up high, the only reason why I'm not really too opposed to it is because we actually have something that's going to be getting mounted up here that's not lights, that is going to come kind of high up, like way up here. You know, so in comparison to how high this item is going to be on the back of this thing, the lights aren't going to be much. The lights are still going to be lower than that. You know what I'm saying? So, so put in the comments what it is you guys think. Should I go with the low profile mounting to keep everything kind of low, even though we are going to be mounting a pretty bulky item towards the back? Or should I just say screw it and mount it on the top? Because mounting it on the top is going to make it a lot easier to make that front plate. And we'll have the double bolting method right there that I think is probably going to be important whenever we're dragging the lights through trees and stuff to not allow them to move. But anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do smash the like button. It most certainly helps us tremendously. Peace out, and I'll see you on the next one.